Merry Christmas, everybody. From your resident Muslim. Yeah, I'm just in a really good mood today, and I hope you are too. What's that? You got a present for me. Alright, I mean, I wonder what this is. Oh, man. What the hell is wrong with you? You know what? Just for that, I'm revoking my present to you, okay? No part 2 of the Game of Week series until late January, alright? I'm sorry. You did this to yourself. Well, I can't say that was what I wanted, but at least it gives me a chance to see if this article has any credence. I stumbled onto it a couple of weeks ago. It's called, "I'm So Glad I Gave Redfall a Second Chance." It features classic segments like Slay. And it ends with the statement, "It's now a smooth, entertaining title with plenty to see and do. What more could you ask for?" And reading that sentence made me incredibly curious. Because when I played it just like 7 months ago, I could think of plenty of other things I could ask from it, like being a video game, for example. So could they really have brushed it up that much in that short of a time frame? I guess there's only one way to find out. So when I started up the game, force a habit. When I started up the game, before I even got past the menu, I was reminded of one particular issue that probably couldn't be fixed by just a couple of patches unless they top to bottom overhauled the whole thing. The story and dialogue, and big surprise, it's as bad as ever. Redfall's writing is based off of 2 core tenets: exposition and forced quirky dialogue. If the game isn't explaining something in the most obvious way possible, or telling jokes that half the time don't even structurally make sense, then it straight up does not care about talking to you. Every mission starts with a briefing that basically serves as a story recap of the last 30 minutes and an explanation of the next 15. Every letter you read explicitly tells you every detail of the people involved in case your tiny little brain can't pick up on context clues. Stay safe, sister of mine. Where's your husband been at, huh? Oh man, I'm a divorce lawyer, by the way. Ooh, find my son, he's 5'1" and wears blue jeans. Okay, maybe this one. And every NPC is designed to be a vessel of only essential information. But because this game has next to nothing to do and only a base level of world building, that means that 99% of the time, there is no essential information, which leads to this. If you're really lucky, an NPC will have like 2 lines explaining how they're the doctor or the janitor before they default to humming at you, but the majority of people placed around safe houses and home bases in this game legitimately have no dialogue outside of this. This is the first response you get from all of the characters you're seeing on screen right now. A lot of the time, the little quips or observational dialogue in this game go well beyond bad and enter the territory of hardly even working as a sentence.
What is that red stuff? It doesn't look healthy. Healthsome.
It's healthy. You got it right the first time. You know, it's that word that a 4-year-old would know. And in the exceptionally rare case where this game tries to inject a little bit of emotion to its cold, dead body, it fails in both writing and performance. Like, look at this response of you coming back to your base and telling a character that an abducted survivor he sent you looking for couldn't be tracked down and was most likely dead.
Oh, you found them, huh? Shame. Guess we all lost someone out there, though.
Pretty tame response, right? He seems pretty ambivalent about this news, so he must not have known the guy really well. Maybe they were like an acquaintance or a new recruit. No, it was his brother. Writing aside though, as far as actually playing the game, there are some legitimate improvements from when I played it at launch. It ran pretty smooth with just the occasional stuttering. I am playing on a 4070 though. It's not crashing every 10 minutes anymore, and textures aren't taking a full minute to load in like they used to. Plus, a lot of the most egregious enemy AI bugs seem to be gone here. I know most of you smartly avoided playing this game at any point, so it's hard to overstate this, but this stuff was so bad on release that after playing 3 hours back then, I felt like I didn't even know what the game was supposed to be like, because 10 seconds couldn't pass without it having an aneurysm. So the good news is, with these things fixed, Redfall feels like an actual video game, which I'll restate, I would not call the original release, just like I wouldn't call a field of wheat a sandwich. But while Redfall is now actually a game, it is also an exceptionally bad one. The super empty open world problem doesn't seem to have been addressed at all. At the beginning of the game, I was able to walk across half of the opening map on my way to the first objective and ran into nothing and nobody. I would hear people people occasionally, but even then I'd look around and couldn't find out where they were. Even when enemies did show up, a lot of the time they wouldn't be connected to a side quest or a chest with cool items or even a collectible. It would just be like 2 or 3 dudes huddled around some ammo and nothing else in sight for miles. The whole game at both a high and low level is full of lazy, copy-pasted material, even down to just using the same blood streak patterns that they just spam everywhere to make it look all spooky. Heavy flow day. There's maybe like 5 different scenarios where you meet enemies, randomly hanging about, being near a house with a little bit of loot, vampire nests, safe houses, and historical markers. And all of these have absolutely zero thought put into how many enemies there are and where they're placed. You'll go into like 12 straight encounters that have at best 3 enemies apiece and then stumble onto something like this out of nowhere. Some missions, like actual genuine side missions, will have you take on a total of 1 enemy. And don't even get me started on safe houses. Listen, make fun of Far Cry all you want, Lord knows I have, but at least when you had to take out enemy camps and build new bases for yourself in that game, it came with an actual location, guards that you could take out however you chose, and it actually posed some kind of combat challenge to you. At least when you synchronize in Assassin's Creed, you climb up tall structures and get a fun little panning shot of the world around you. Safe houses in Redfall aren't camps, they aren't landmarks. You go up to them, maybe an enemy or 2 will be nearby, but sometimes they're totally empty. You turn on the power and then the safe house is unlocked. Congratulations. Okay, fine. I mean, that sucks, but at least powering up the safe houses could lead to some interesting puzzles and force you to look around the area, and okay, it's right behind me. Maybe this next one, but no, of course not. Why would it? Whoa, that was like a whole 5 steps this time. All right, here we go. Wait, this one needs a key? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The key's probably like hidden around the area somewhere. I wonder where I could. Are you shitting me? I honestly just don't understand this decision for the safe houses. Not only do you not have to fight anything half the time in order to unlock them, but for some reason they all insist on having this generator activate them, but place the generator directly beside the safe house every single time. And then sometimes you gotta unlock the generator with a key, which is also sitting right beside it. Why? Why would you not put the key inside of a house so the player has to go explore? Why would you not put the generator behind a rigged doorway so you have to solve a puzzle to get to it? This is just pressing 3 buttons instead of 1 to unlock a fast travel point. And it doesn't even work as a safe house because even after you unlock them, enemies can still be standing right outside waiting for you. That lack of inspiration and thrown togetherness of it all is everywhere in the open world, and it makes everything feel pointless and unmemorable. Even the game doesn't remember where it is half the time. Huh? The way that checkpoints and missions work is also hilariously bad because the world state saves when you die. Whatever enemies you took out or did damage to get saved when you respawn, but you also respawn at the last safe house you visited. So you might walk across a completely empty area for 4 minutes, get partway through your mission objective, die, get sent back, have to travel across the same empty area again, get to the place you died, and then finish off the last, like, 3 enemies in the area. Effectively, the more you die, the more trivial the encounter becomes, and the more time you have to spend doing absolutely nothing. It is the definition of the worst of both worlds. This feels like a decision that's rooted in the fact that you're technically supposed to play Redfall co-op. This is a very co-op choice that gets 0 adjustments for single player. The same goes for the skill tree, where a few abilities were tied to helping out allies, which you just don't have in single player, and even some dialogue refers to you as a group when you walk in by yourself.
So you're the ones who took down the Hollow Man.
It's true that Redfall can technically be played single player, but it is almost constantly telling you that that is the wrong thing to do. Even the difficulty balancing does not feel like it's balanced for one person. Having to repeat those long walks every time you die also feels like the game just padding out its runtime for no reason. It does that all over the place. There's not enough content for how long this game wants to be, including the fact that, like, you can't use any other mode of transportation besides your own little feet and fast travel, even though there's ATVs everywhere. But like, you can't ride them, you can just blow them up. It's super apparent that this thing is being stretched well past its limits at all times. Even in the main missions themselves, a lot of the times you have to aimlessly wander around houses looking for keys that you can easily glance over, or you have to go around areas like killing a few of these little exposition enemies, which produce convenient little flashbacks that you have to sit through to continue. So many areas had me going back and forth up and down the same stairs and hallways 10 times over, and while they try to bring the classic arcane gameplay of finding alternate routes to areas depending on how perceptive you are and what tools you acquired, the areas here are just too small to make this engaging, and a lot of the time I would wind up finding an easy route to a room, going back into the house, finding a thing I could lockpick, unlocking it, and then winding up in the exact same room I was in 3 seconds ago. Lockpicks are also found all over the open world and can be purchased outright, so I wasn't even really being rewarded for thorough exploration. I just always had some lockpicks on me. What probably sucks most about these missions though is that there's the occasional pang of brilliance. Like how this mission tackles the story of a girl and her abusive father, where you collect her dolls and place them in a dollhouse and then get teleported to the same house but in the past. And later the boss fight around this mission takes place in a giant dollhouse that opens up like this when you approach it. That is cool, that's unique. It's the distant echo of a team of creative people that clearly have more talent than the next studio over. Arcane Leon and Austin are both full of incredibly talented individuals who just were making a game they didn't want to. And that makes seeing stuff like this such a bummer because most bad games that you'll play won't have this level of creativity pop up out of nowhere. The heart of Arcane is desperately trying to show itself through the muck and sludge surrounding it, and for whatever reason, they're now stuck trying to support and revive this fundamentally bad game instead of being allowed to work on projects that they'd be much better at making. But I'm getting off track. Heavy flow day. I've spent a lot of time in this video talking about stuff that can't really be improved by a couple of patches, and I've done that on purpose because for every article that says that Redfall is better now because it runs at 60 FPS, or every Xbox fan who's waiting there patiently just praying for a couple more updates because it'll definitely be good by then, or every claim that this team is super committed to reviving this game, that doesn't change the outcome that is basically impossible. You just can't drive a train where there are no tracks. The infrastructure is just not there. The gameplay and AI could be brought up to S-tier standards and the game could run like butter on a hot summer afternoon, and there still wouldn't be enough content, missions would still be broken and hastily thrown together, the story and dialogue would still make Forspoken look like Citizen Kane, and the game still wouldn't have a shred of personality. This game is a lost cause through and through. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the stuff that it can improve and some of the stuff that it's been improving this entire time, because it's still so bad that it really puts into perspective how bad it was on release for this to be considered fixed by some people. Let's talk about gameplay. The best thing I can say about Redfall's gunplay is that it's fine. It's serviceable enough when everything's working to make you feel good when you pop a couple dudes in the head. But even at that base level, something's always a little bit off. The weapons are pretty imbalanced, with the shotguns especially feeling a lot weaker than it feels like they should be, especially when aiming down sights. Sometimes you'll shotgun somebody right in the face and they won't even get staggered. And the sound design in general leaves a lot to be desired. Like, the sniper sounds fine enough when you hit an enemy, but if you miss, it sounds like you shot a BB gun. Apparently that's lore accurate too, because you're able to snipe people while standing about 10 feet away from somebody else and they won't even know where you are. Heavy flow. There's also some really funky collisions on obstacles that I noticed at multiple points in the game, because I'm a gamer god who's never missed a shot in my life. So I knew something was up when suddenly I was missing enemies I felt like I really should be hitting. And sure enough, if you take a closer look, a lot of the obstacles have colliders that significantly exceed the bounds of their object and stop your shots in midair, so the enemies will just have a full force field every once in a while. Static objects aren't the only thing in the game that have horrible collision detection though. Every explosive does damage about 3 times farther than it looks like it should. Every blood bag enemy does the same. And vampire claw attacks feel almost arbitrary in their hitboxes. Speaking of, I know I haven't talked about the vampires this entire time, but fighting them is probably like the low point of the game, which is crazy because that was supposed to be like the whole appeal. You can outrun them if you fully turn around and run away, but if you're facing them to shoot and backing up, they significantly outpace you, which means your 2 options are to be a little pussy and make fighting them super boring, or shoot them while taking hits and make fighting them super boring. I remember people really complaining about the Marauders in Doom Eternal, but that game had way more movement and spacing options, plus you could time your shots to negate any damage the Marauder would do with their melee, which I think was a really clever way of balancing a fast, tanky melee enemy in a first-person shooter, something which Redfall does not do. I will admit that I didn't use the abilities as much as I should have, which probably could have helped me avoid damage sometimes, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. You can get through encounters just fine, and I didn't find the abilities all that interesting to begin with. When multiple vampires are chasing you, you could either run away, turn and fire for a little bit, and then run away again, tank through damage and keep hitting them until you die and come back to a thinned out herd, or hope that their AI just stops working so you can pump a bunch of shots straight into their schnoz. In a stroke of brilliance, some vampire variants have even more health than normal. Others have this lasso tool, which is basically undodgeable if you're not directly looking at them and takes up the majority of your health with no chance of escape, and others get get like a rotating shield around them as well as giant fog clouds and teleportation, which means you spend way more time trying to track them down and get rid of their little minions than you do actually fighting them. But the real challenge comes in the mini bosses. I mean, I just look at this tense fight I had with one on the hardest difficulty.
Is this what you want?
Just engrossing stuff right here. All right, whoa, okay, this guy seems like he's gonna be pretty, where'd he go? Hello? Hello? Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. All right, I got him. Okay, sorry. I meant to say that the real challenge were the bosses, which,
Let's begin.
so that was one of the main villains. Human enemies are a lot more common, and they're just straight up fodder. I mean, these guys are dumb as rocks and can usually be taken out by a maximum of 2 shots, and while they aren't hard malfunctioning like they were half a year ago, they still display some of the worst AI I've seen in a game ever. Ooh, I'm gonna come get you, see if you can find me. Ooh, close. I was actually on the other side. Whoa, is this guy my friend? Is he like a friendly NPC? He's not. Oh, never mind, he is an enemy. What? Did you guys see that? His shotgun just shot at me sideways. What the hell? The new and partially improved Redfall overall makes me feel like I'm playing through a demo scene of the game where a dev just kind of put stuff together randomly just to see if the systems were all working correctly and then accidentally pressed submit and then launched it to the general public. Everything continues to feel out of place and unfinished regardless of a 60 FPS patch or some bug fixes. I've now spent about 30 more hours than any reasonable human being should ever spend in Redfall, and I only played it for 20 hours. There's nothing here to save, nobody is playing it to begin with, and I don't know why Bethesda and Microsoft are so adamant on trying to fix it. Redfall isn't a thing that deserves a second chance. It's one of those things that deserves to be shot in the head and buried in Phil Spencer's backyard. And the developers behind it deserve to be placed on a new project that doesn't force their creativity to be pigeonholed into a poorly planned out live service model. By the time Redfall released, about 70% of the team that was around for the making of Prey had left the company, feeling dissatisfied with what they were being asked to make, which means that Redfall not only tarnished Arcane's name, but also jeopardized its future. I'm still hoping that they get back on track with their next game. Obviously, Blade is coming from Leon, that has a ton of potential, but Austin is a bigger question mark right now, and they've been kind of painted into a corner. I wish them all the best with their next project, but please put Redfall out of its misery.